Welcome everybody to our professional services webinar number 69. It's with a new vendor of ours called Proton AI. They're new to NSA, but they're certainly not new to distribution, and you'll find that out today. We're very excited about the technology and the capabilities that Proton AI brings. We've already got a lot of good activity that's happening with them, so it's very exciting. Um, the topics we're going to cover today is why AI is so powerful for distributors. And by the way, Proton AI is exclusively in the distribution space, so they understand it extremely well. How to show reps where to focus their energies for big wins, taking that data, mining that data, and building that intelligence. And then AI use cases. There's a few of these which are very exciting that'll transform the way teams are selling. A little bit about NSA. Most of you guys know who we are, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. We've been around for quite a while, 15 plus years. We exclusively focus in the SXE and Cloud Suite arena for distributors. And we've got a pretty extensive team of consultants and sales teams. And we built out a solution called NSA Plus, which is all the add-on solutions to the ERP to further enhance that solution. With that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Benj. Benj Cohen is the founder and CEO of Proton AI, and he's going to take us through today's session. So Benj, I'll pass it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks everyone for taking the time. I'm Benj, founder and CEO here at Proton. A little bit of background on Proton. We're a AI-powered CRM built exclusively for distributors. We integrate with Infor system. We integrate with e-commerce platforms, centralizing all of your data in one spot. We use AI to analyze that data to tell sales reps where the best opportunities are. And because we built the solution specifically for distributors, we get really, really awesome adoption relative to other CRMs that are out there. So excited to share a little bit more about some of the things that we've learned over the last few years of building AI tools and sales tools for distributors, and some specific AI nuggets. So a little bit of background on me and sort of the Proton story of how we got here. I grew up my family's dental distribution business. So 1930, my great-grandfather started Benco Dental. And since then, we've been selling dental supplies all across the US. They're actually an Infor customer as well. In 2015, I went to Harvard, was studying applied math. And when I was in school, I was sort of interested in all the different techniques and technologies that I was learning about in the classroom and wondering if there are ways to apply it to kind of some of the challenges that I saw at my family business on the sales side, knowing that we had so much data about customers and trying to use that data to help inform salespeople about what they should be selling to each customer. And so 2018, I started the company out of the innovation lab at Harvard. And today we work with lots of distributors across many different markets, helping them sell more stuff. So before we get started, I'm curious just to get sort of like a pulse check on how people think about AI. My guess is that you felt over the last few months that you're kind of on a bit of an AI roller coaster, right? In the beginning, you're sort of curious, you're skeptical, you're kind of wondering like, hey, is there something here? Is this valuable? Then you try it and it works really well. It's amazing. Then you might think, oh my God, this is like too good. Is this going to take my job? Is it going to take everyone's job? We all going to be out of work? And then, it does something really stupid. And then you go back to being frustrated. And you're wondering if, this is all that it's hyped up to be. And then maybe you go through the cycle again. So I guess I'm curious for those that are live, if this resonates, sort of if you've been sort of on any sort of emotional roller coasters at all with AI so far. Cool. Great. Well, we're going to hopefully convince you through this session that there's a lot to be optimistic about when it comes to AI and the application of AI specifically in distribution. And hopefully you end feeling thrilled and excited about the potential more than anything. So I want to sort of start by teeing up what the opportunity in distribution is for AI. And I'm going to start by telling a few customer stories of distributors that I've gotten the chance to visit with before they applied our technology. And I think that will kind of highlight where the opportunity is. I'll tee that up and then talk to you about some of the specific use cases that we've seen with the customers that we work with. So as I mentioned, over the last 5 years, I've had thousands of calls with distributors, done a ton of in-person visits with field sales reps, with inside sales teams, warehouse visits. They're the best. And I've learned a lot. And so I'm going to give you a few specific examples before we started working with a customer. So these are actual pictures from my various visits. One of them in the upper right corner is from an electrical distributor that I got a chance to visit with. They're one of the largest electrical distributors in the US. It's a great company. And I had the chance to travel with their outside sales team. In this particular division, they're selling to companies that manufacture houses. So a very sort of specific type of customer, electrical products and other products. And what I found on that visit, I'm guessing this resonates with those of you that on the call that are distributors. We basically just went around visiting sort of a set of customers in rotation. And we asked a very simple question when we showed up, which was, do you need any building materials today? What are you looking for to buy, basically? So nothing really specific, but just making our sort of milk run visits to see if customers needed to buy anything. Another customer we visited is another building materials distributor. This time I was sitting with their inside sales team. And in this example, I watched the team basically wait for inbound calls to come in. Customers call, they place the order, they move on to the next customer. So very much a sort of inbound wait for the customer motion versus something outbound sort of driving demand. And the third example, which is one of my favorites, is this visit with a lubricant distributor. So these guys sell all kinds of different oil-based lubricants to car dealers and industrial locations. And on this visit, what I learned was there's we go sort of location to location, and there's a technique that the sales reps use in this particular industry, which is called kicking drums. So basically we drive up to a location, we get out of the car, maybe it's 20, 30 minutes out of the way, and then we would go into the sort of back area because no one puts their containers of oil in the front. So we go sort of in the back, and we would literally kick the drums. So we would walk up to each drum, we'd kick it, and if it made a certain sound, it means it's empty and we got to help them buy more of it. And if it's not empty, we're a little disappointed because we drove all that way to kick a drum that's actually not empty. And then we'd move on to the next visit. And so I think across all three of these examples, hopefully it kind of underscores what the opportunity is and sort of where the gap is today on the sales side in distribution, which is that we really feel like there are blind spots in sales because we don't use data in the sales process. So, we've got on the one hand all this transactional data, product data, customer data. We know what customers are looking at online. We know what we're quoting them. And on the other hand, the sales team doesn't actually use any of that data to be better at selling their products. And so what happens is you end up with this sort of very passive experience and missing a bunch of things. So that looks like missing customers who churn. We hear often that a customer will be buying from us one day and then stop buying from us, and we won't notice for months. Or missed upsell opportunities. So hey, all the other customers like this customer are buying these specific items or categories of products, but this customer's not, and we just are not really aware of that because they're buying so many different things. We got so many customers, too much going on to really know what's happening with each individual account. And that sort of, you hear that in all three of the examples I gave. So with the electrical distributor that I mentioned, instead of going and proactively knowing exactly what that customer needs and what else we can sell them, we were going in and basically just asking for an order of any kind, sort of a milk run visit. And in the building materials example, on the inside, instead of proactively upselling, cross-selling, knowing which customers were going to need us and what they would need from us, we're basically just waiting for them to come to us and ask to buy something, which means we have no visibility into churn. We have no visibility into what else we can be selling those customers. And in the lubricant example, it's the most extreme, right? We're driving all the way out of the way. It's a super expensive visit. Outside sales reps are highly paid professionals. We go, we visit, and we can't actually sell them anything because they don't need a refill or a top up, but we have all the data to know how often they need a refill or top up. So we could have avoided a bunch of wasted visits if we had just figured out how to better use the data, um, in our sales team. And so it's not just these sort of three examples. From survey data, we've seen that this is really commonplace. So only 9% of distributors consider themselves to be leaders in using data analytics for sales. And at Proton, we want to understand why that is. Like, what is the gap today? And our opinion is that the reason why we have all this data, but yet as distributors, we can't quite figure out how to use it well and on the sales team is really comes down to the tools that we give the sales team. So when we go out and travel with reps, we see CRMs that look like this. So these are real pictures of CRMs that we've seen in the field. So the piece in the back is a spreadsheet. We know them, we love them, but they're very hard for salespeople to understand what's going on. Just too much. It's just way too much data. We've seen companies that email out 5 spreadsheets a day. It's like, well, they have all the information they need to be smart. Well, it's really hard for reps. They're trying to spend time with customers, and so they don't end up getting much out of those. We've seen people implement really complicated CRM systems, which are just as bad as sending a spreadsheet out every day because reps can't find stuff. It's too hard to get access to the right data. The CRM system doesn't integrate with the ERP, so the data that the rep actually needs isn't even in the CRM system, so they have to go digging for it. And then, of course, BI tools. So people will say, hey, look, we're going to give you 10,000 BI dashboards, and if you click around the right way, you can get the right information. And that's also really frustrating for sales reps because sales reps aren't data analysts; they're salespeople. And so what ends up happening is the sales rep defaults to what they know, which is the tried and true pencil and paper CRM, which this is a picture of someone's pencil and paper CRM. And I love this picture mostly because I have no idea what is going on in this picture. But this is how they're keeping track of all their follow-ups. This is how they're figuring out what else they should be selling. This is how they're figuring out who's going to churn. Pencil and paper doesn't integrate with the ERP system, so you can't know what they're buying. And so anyways, the point of this is, we've got all this data. There's a real opportunity to use it better on the sales team. And we think the gap is the tool set that we've enabled distribution sales reps with. And that's really why we've built the software that we built, which sort of solves for this need. So what we've done is we built an AI-powered CRM that's specifically built for distributors. We use AI to dig through all the data to uncover those blind spots that we talked about. So the blind spots can be filled if we just use some intelligence to understand what's happening in the data that we already have. So looking through and understanding, where are customers likely to churn? What else can we be selling customers? And a bunch of other use cases I'm going to go into in just a second. The second thing is we've integrated Proton with all the systems that the reps need to get information from. That way, they don't need to go to 7 different tools to get it. They just go to one spot, and it has everything they need. They can look up customer order history. They can look up order status. They can look up pricing. They can look up inventory. They can look at their past notes. It's all in one spot and doesn't require the rep to do a bunch of work to actually get that data into the system. And the final thing is that we think is really, really important for sort of bridging the gap between data and the sales team is just keeping it simple. And so our system is as simple as we could possibly make it. We're trying to make it simpler every day. And that's really what leads to higher adoption rates. So a little bit more about sort of how it works. Basically, what we do is we centralize your data in one place. So orders, customers, products, quotes, online browsing data, document data, and then any third-party data that you guys might have on your customers. We analyze it using AI, and then we feed that out to the sales team inside the interface. And I'm going to go into, in just a few minutes, a little bit more detail on what that surface looks like and sort of what those opportunities to apply the AI are. But before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about what AI actually is, so we have some context as we're moving into that, into those specific use cases. So I want to give sort of like a little bit of a thought exercise here. So imagine that you are a human. Well, I guess you probably don't have to do much imagining for that. You're a human, I hope. And you're asked to basically look at the, a customer's buying these two items, and someone says to you, your boss says to you, or whatever, says, hey, go figure out what someone would buy with these items. So what would you do? You would, go and call some customers who bought those products. You would see that, oh, well, people who buy those two things also buy these other things. I had some conversations with 2 or 3 of those customers, and they explained to me what they're doing with the products, and that helps me understand what else they should be buying with those products. So AI does the same thing, but just requires way, way, way more data. And so in this particular example, if you were trying to get an AI to figure out what items go with the 2 items that I just showed, you would feed it all of your transaction data, just like we do with Proton. We take all the transaction data, and then we use AI to analyze that and figure out what else a customer could be buying or should be buying with those items based on what other customers have bought previously. So you can kind of think about AI's learning pattern as the same as a human's learning pattern, but just requiring way, way, way more data. And right now, I mean, you can see this. It's the sort of the difference in the amount of data is sort of obvious when you think about, I mean, I learned to drive. I'm not a particularly good driver, but 50 hours in the road, and I'm legal to drive, and it's no big deal. It took millions, billions of hours of training data, synthetic training data, to get cars to be able to do the same thing that I can learn in 50 hours. And so that gives you kind of a sense for, humans are still unbelievable at learning things, but AI is similarly amazing in certain respects. It just requires more data to be able to learn patterns. And so everyone here, I'm guessing, is using ChatGPT all the time. ChatGPT actually works the same way as the sort of the pattern I just described. ChatGPT is guessing the next word using the same sort of training method where it gets fed all the data on the internet and even more data than that. And it is a model that's trained to guess what is the next word. And it turns out that if you train a model on all that data to guess the next word, you get ChatGPT, which seems like it's really smart when you use it. But really, it's fundamentally working the same way as any of these other AI models are. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about some specific use cases for AI and distribution. So the first one is with our field sales teams. So there's a few key use cases that we've seen in the field that have been really powerful. One of them is what we call AI-powered conversation prompts. So this is taking all the data that we have about customers, orders, quotes, online browsing data from the ERP, from the e-commerce site, pulling it all into one place, analyzing it, and then telling the sales rep what the best opportunities are within that account. So you can think about things like reorder. This customer should be buying this product again, but they haven't. This or wallet share gap. Other customers like this customer have bought this item, but this customer has not, or this category, this customer has not. We should go in and have a conversation about that with this customer to try to get them to buy it. Another example could be something like a quote follow-up. Hey, this customer, we quoted them this product, but they haven't bought it yet. By the way, there are some items that go with the item on the quote, so we can kind of increase the value of the quote. But really, we've seen those kind of prompts be really effective. And I'll give you an example. This is with that same electrical distributor I mentioned earlier. I got a chance to go on a second visit after they deployed our software. And I was visiting with a different sales rep. We were about to go into a customer. The guy pulls up his Proton app on his phone. He looks up the customer, and it says there's an $80,000 gap in some specific type of wire. Now, again, that's like above my pay grade. I don't know exactly what the details of the product were, but it said $80,000. That sounds like a big number. Let's go see what we can do. We go in, we visit the customer, and turns out after some exchange that seemed like it required a PhD, we walked out with an $80,000 order, and the rep was pretty happy, and I was pretty happy too. It was kind of cool to see. But that's the kind of impact that having these prompts can have, which is without that, we would have just gone in and said, hey, what else do you need? And the customer might not have brought up the wire, but we asked specifically about what we thought they would actually need and where else we could help them. And we were able to switch them from a competitor to our wire by being targeted and proactive. The second thing we've seen is AI-powered health scoring. So again, analyzing all the spend history data with our customers, understanding which customers are likely to churn, and using that data to flag it to the salesperson. So we often hear that sales reps are managing 100 or even in some cases 1,000 accounts. And when you have that many accounts in your name, there's no possible way you could keep track of every one. And so we can use AI to flag those customers that are churning or are at risk of churning and bring those up to the forefront so that reps can take action on them and keep them in their book. So again, there's tons of use cases that we've seen, but these are probably the two most potent use cases with the field team. The second set of use cases is in customer service. So this is reps that are taking inbound calls or inbound emails, orders, answering questions, etc. The most common use case for this group is upselling and cross-selling. So using Proton to make recommendations about what else they should be selling to that customer and tactically putting those into their correspondence back to the customer. Another one which is on this slide is AI-powered substitutions. So one of the things that happens often is a customer calls in and says, hey, I need this specific product. The specific product they're calling about, we don't have it in stock. But oftentimes we have a substitute in stock that would do the same thing. But if the rep has not been at the company for 20 years and knows the catalog like the back of their hand, they might not know that we have a substitute that's in stock. And so they can actually use Proton to find that. So they pull up the product, and automatically using AI, we've identified, hey, here are the top substitutes for that product, and we'll tell you if they're in stock. And so that way, instead of the customer just saying, sorry, I'm going to call your competitor, I guess they probably don't say that, but you understand the point. They're going to go hang up the phone and call somebody else to buy it. You can sell them the substitute right there on the phone. And I'll give you an example of this. We work with MSC Supply. They're one of the largest industrial distributors in the US. We work with them across a number of different teams, but one of the teams that uses Proton is their customer care team, which is really inbound calls, inbound emails. 100 plus people on that team, and we've seen that they're able to generate $70,000 per rep per year in incremental sales from leveraging Proton for cross-sell, upsell, substitution, the use case I just described. So it's really been a game changer for them because that team and that team at many companies is really a cost center, right? It costs money. It's kind of we need to have it, but it's not actually driving revenue. It's not really improving the customer experience much, other than having someone that I can call. And so we've seen that use case be really powerful with them. A third set of use cases that we've seen be powerful for distributors is really around technical expertise. So we all sell complicated products that require years and years to really learn, and they're used in a complicated environment. So the products are complicated, the environment they're used in is complicated, and so we've seen a few different applications of AI actually help distributors get their sales teams up to speed more quickly and be able to answer technical questions faster for customers. So I'll give you two examples here. One is an AI-powered assistant. So we call our assistant Pronto. This is very, very cool. So if you've used ChatGPT, it's like ChatGPT, but it sits on top of all of your data inside Proton. So it can do the same things as ChatGPT, but also answer questions about products, about customers, about past orders. And so one of the use cases that we've seen really take off with this agent that we launched is product understanding. So a customer asks a question like, hey, can I use this product in a specific application? You can actually ask Pronto that question, and Pronto will go and find the relevant documents about that product, the technical specifications about that product, read them, understand them, and then give an answer to the specific question that the customer is asking so the rep can answer the question right away. So this both gets the rep up to speed more quickly, and it helps reps answer questions from customers faster, which is really, really important to delivering a good experience for those customers. The other thing that we've seen be powerful is AI-powered semantic search. So you can type in sort of like an internal Google on all the documentation about your products. We've seen this be really powerful for accessing sell sheets and spec sheets on the go quickly, so that reps can send things off to customers to answer questions. The other use case and sort of one story I'll tell here about the AI-powered assistant, I gave you one example around technical expertise. There are a number of other use cases there. The other one that we've seen be very popular is using Pronto for call planning. So it's not exactly technical expertise, but it is automating a lot of the manual work that reps have to do today. So you can just ask Pronto, I'm about to go visit this customer. What should I talk about? And Pronto will actually go and on your behalf, look at the order history, look at your past call notes, look at the recommendations, what else they should be buying, and give you a full call plan for sales reps to take action on, which we think is really powerful. And we've heard that from customers who are leveraging that part of our suite. So to summarize, we talked about field sales use cases for AI, inside sales use cases for AI, and this sort of like technical expertise preparation set of use cases. And so now the question is sort of what's the impact? What does this all mean when we deploy it out to customers? So I'm going to tell 3 example stories from customers that we work with, and hopefully it gives you kind of a sense of the impact this technology can have. So the first example is RS Hughes. RS Hughes is an industrial distributor. They're about $500 million in sales, a fantastic company. They first came to us looking actually to solve a problem on their website. So they were like, hey, we want to use AI to personalize the experience that we give our customers online. So can you analyze our data and give us recommendations that we can put on our website? And we said, sure, we can do that. And they said, great, we want to first test this out with our inside sales team because we want to see if these recommendations are any good. Before we put them on our website for customers, we want to have our team take a look at them and see. So they deployed Proton with their inside sales team. And in the first 3 months, they increased the sales per rep by over $150,000 a year. So it was a smashing success. They then deployed it on their website because the recommendations were effective, obviously. They saw a pretty big increase in sales on their website. Then they deployed it with customer service, which we just talked about as sort of inside sales, that inbound team. And they went from just a couple of users to the entire team, which at the time was, I think, over 100 people, in a matter of weeks because they were seeing so much sales uplift from deploying it. And then they eventually replaced their existing CRM with Proton and leveraged it as their full CRM across the enterprise. And so, they've told us that it's the best ROI of any tech investment they made in 30 years. It's generated significant sales uplift for them, and it's really been a game changer. A second example is a company called BPI. They're a building materials distributor, also a great company. They came to us looking to increase the sell-through rate with their inside sales teams. They had an inbound team. They were trying to figure out how do we upsell and cross-sell our customers, and can we use data to do that? And so that was the initial use case with them. And once we made that sort of use case successful, we eventually expanded also to CRM with their outside sales team. And so now their entire business runs on Proton, and they're leveraging our AI to help grow the business, both with inside sales and with outside sales. And they were able to attribute $30 million a year to using the system. and it's really been transformational to how they sell. They went from being purely reactive to being proactive, which has been a game changer for them. A third example is ORS NASCO. So they've been able to improve their sales conversions with Proton. And importantly, they've been able to get new sales reps to ramp up more quickly in their quite complex environment. So ORS NASCO is a master distributor. So they sell industrial supplies to other industrial distributors. And they have leveraged Proton as their enterprise-wide CRM. At the time that we went live with them, they had 4 divisions. They were using another CRM system. We actually switched them off that CRM across all 4 divisions. And they've been able to use the recommendations to drive incremental sales. And most importantly, they've been able to help get their new reps up to speed. They're able to hire reps who have less experience and ramp them more quickly because those reps come in and the system guides them on how to sell. It tells them, here are the customers you should focus on. Here are the products you should sell those customers. Here's what those products actually do. And that's really helped them get reps up to speed more quickly. And that's one of the reasons why they've seen really, really strong adoption across their sales team. So across these 3 examples, I just want to call out a few patterns of success. I think the biggest pattern of success that we've seen is in all 3 examples and all of our most successful customers, each implementation was driven by a business problem that they needed to solve. This was not an IT project. IT was involved in the project, but fundamentally it was a sales project. The sales team had certain objectives. They're trying to drive some kind of transformation within the business, whether it's delivering a better e-commerce experience, changing the way they sell inside, or helping reps get up to speed more quickly. It was all about solving a specific business problem and then finding the right solution to solve that problem. And so if you're thinking about implementing something like Proton, make sure that it's coming from a place of what is the business problem we're trying to solve versus, hey, this is cool technology. We should buy this because it's cool. I would love to sell you our software just because it's cool, but I don't want to because you probably will be not as successful as if it's really coming from a business need. Great. So next, I want to talk a little bit about kind of where AI is going in distribution, and then we'll open it up for questions. So to give some context on kind of where I think we are with AI, I think it's helpful to look at other large technological shifts in the past. So this chart is showing you, it's from Google Ngrams, if you've ever been nerdy enough to check that out. But this basically looks at how many times a certain term was used in sort of all written text. So papers, books, etc. And so the blue line here is the number of times, sort of the prevalence of the term electric power. And so you'll see there's some, bumbling along going on. By the way, this starts in 1800 all the way up to 2020. So it's a pretty long time horizon. Some bumbling along, and then something happens in like 1880 that really matters. And that's when you see a huge spike in the mentions of electric power, and then sort of a pretty sustained spike over a long period of time. And that thing is obviously the incandescent light bulb, Thomas Edison and the light bulb. And once that happens, everyone says, oh my gosh, light bulbs are a really amazing piece of technology, but there's so many other things we could do with electricity. And so over the next sort of 50 years, humans figure out how to use electricity, not just to create light, but also to do all kinds of other things. Electrify factories, which happens in the 1910s, put electricity into homes and dishwashers and refrigerators and all these other sort of different use cases for electricity. And so my point in sort of telling this story of the arc of how we understood the use cases for electricity is really to say, I think we're kind of in the early days, we're in the early innings, we're in the light bulb phase of AI. So we've got a few use cases that are really successful, but I think over the next 10 years, we're going to figure out many more use cases than we've already figured out. Similar to if you were sitting in your house in 1880, you didn't have a dishwasher yet, and it wasn't obvious at the time that electricity would make the dishwasher work. But then, 50 years later, we figured out that innovation from 1880 that was first useful became useful for other things later. And so I think we're really just in the early innings of what's possible with AI. And so I can give you kind of my opinion about what I think the next few use cases are going to be. But most importantly, I think we all need to kind of buckle up for the next few years of figuring out all the different ways that we can deploy this technology to make our lives easier, because it's not obvious yet what they all are. And so I can give you kind of our vision for at least the next few phases of where we think this has an impact in distribution. The first one is an analyst in your pocket. So large language models are really helpful at understanding data and understanding sort of how to access data and summarize data and give it to people. And so what we've built with Pronto is in phase one right now, which is an analyst in your pocket. So sales rep wants to know, how much did this customer buy last year in this particular category? Instead of calling an analyst or looking in a BI tool, they can just ask that question to Pronto, and it will go and analyze the data and give the sales rep a response. And so if you think about any use cases that you'd usually call an analyst for, you can now actually talk to Pronto. And I'll give you another example that hits close to home. I was on vacation with my family in Japan, and my dad was writing some end-of-year report, and Japan is quite different in time zone than the team of analysts that work at my family business. And he was trying to answer a data question, and he actually pulled up Pronto and started asking the questions that he would have normally asked to an analyst to be able to write a report on how the year went, because all the data was in Pronto, and he was able to just get it immediately. Instead of having to ask some analyst at the company, he could get the data directly by chatting to the agent. So we think this is kind of phase one, very exciting value, but just the beginning. The second phase in our mind is what we call a manager in your pocket. So this is automating some parts of what a sales manager does. So, sales managers in distribution are stretched, managing many, many reps. They don't have time to look at every customer, every account, every visit, and be able to coach reps. And so the idea here is, how can we use AI, which does have time to do that, to be more proactive with sellers? So a few examples here are using AI to analyze a territory and then pushing to a sales rep a recommendation. Like, for example, hey, John, you have not talked to these 5 customers in the last 90 days, and they haven't ordered in 120 days, and I think they're likely to churn. Do you think you should call them? That would be something that an amazing sales manager who had time to do everything would want to do, but they don't have time for it today. And so we hope to automate that with the manager in your pocket phase. And the final phase of this is, in our mind, agent in your pocket. And so this is turning Pronto into a full agent that can do work on behalf of the salesperson. So the analyst phase is great because you ask it for stuff and it gives you an answer. The agent phase, you ask it to do stuff and it just goes and does it. So an example is you go visit a customer. The customer says, hey, I need this product. You look in your system. You don't have it in stock. You need to find out when the manufacturer is going to have it in stock to be able to send to you. There's no reason that a rep should do that. That should be the agent. The agent should call the manufacturer rep on the rep's behalf, ask the question, collect the relevant data, and once they get the information, return it back to the rep so they can share it with the customer. Simple example, but there are many more like it. Setting appointments with customers, automatically entering opportunities or tasks. You can imagine the agent as a co-pilot that sits in the car with the sales rep. You're driving from visit to visit. They say, hey, Pronto, create an opportunity for this customer with this product. And it just does it on the rep's behalf. That's where we think things are going. And again, all these are going to be done iteratively, and there are going to be many, many more ideas that come out of applications for this technology over the coming years. We're super excited about it. We think there's a ton of potential to make sales reps more efficient and more effective. So that's kind of where we think things are going. Hopefully this was valuable in terms of giving you kind of a sense for what is the opportunity for AI today in distribution? What is AI? What are the core use cases? What's the impact? And where is it all going? And so with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Benj, for that presentation. So, yeah, guys, please either enter into chat or feel free to unmute and ask questions. I do have some that have come in. But before I do that, there's a few takeaways that I'd like to say that I've learned from this as well. So, if you think about what it costs to train a new sales rep and to add sales reps, right, to go ahead and increase sales, you're able to increase your sales by, I don't know, between 5 and 10% with the existing team without having to add anybody. I mean, there's certainly huge value there. It seems like the customer experience is really driven up dramatically, right? Because these reps can now respond to questions that otherwise they'd have to go to a technician, right, to be able to respond to. Now they're able to use AI and get information and respond to those folks a lot sooner. So that's huge. Um, and then the other thing that I would just mention is that, you've got so much data as a distributor. Just think about all the things that Benj had mentioned before, right? You've got sales data, product data, et cetera. Um, Utilizing all that information to make AI quote unquote smarter to be able to convey that to your teams to be able to be more efficient. So those are just some of the things. And then the other big element, of course, is where they're going, right? So it seems that there's more value to come. So the ROI on this is really big. All right, with that, I'll start with a few questions. We don't have anyone that's raised their hand yet or has come off mute. Um, so, Benj, what is the biggest challenge you've seen when it comes to implementing AI for sales teams?
Yeah, the biggest challenge that we've seen, um, I think that it goes back to what I mentioned before around who is driving and leading the project. Where we run into challenges most is when it's really an IT driven project versus a sales driven project. And so when it's IT driven and the business need isn't really there, it's really hard to get the sales reps to actually change their behavior. But when the project is driven by sales, because it's going to help the sales team hit their objectives, it really helps in terms of adoption once someone actually gets started.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, especially with reps, very much commission based in many cases. It's going to put more money in their pocket, so they're motivated financially, right, to be able to adopt. So that's great.
100%. Yeah.
So yeah, another question around sales reps as well is what are your best practices for rolling out AI tools without overwhelming the reps? You mentioned about overwhelming with spreadsheets and other ways that people try to, give sales reps information. So how is this I guess easier without overwhelming them?
Yeah. So in the way that we've had the most success is through something we call the guru training model. So what we do is, we obviously there's so much to the product, but we work with the company to figure out, hey, what are the key value points that solve the business need you guys have? Whether it's we're trying to get new reps up to speed more quickly, we're trying to improve the way we manage inventory, manage pipeline. We're trying to reduce our missed reorders or whatever. There, thousands of different things that people could want to do with the software, and we help you figure out which of those is most important. Um, and so once we identify what that is, we then work with what we call gurus on the customers team to train that group of people on how to leverage the software to help solve that need. And then those people actually go and train the frontline sales team. And so by the time it gets to the frontline sales team, it's focused in that it's only focused on the things that are tied to the business problem they're trying to solve. And it's been translated into the language and terms of the company. And so when we've done that, it really makes a big difference because the sort of the change management is reduced because there's like less scope, and it's put into terms and language that the sales reps can really understand.
Well, that makes a ton of sense. I do have some more questions, but what I'd like to do first is if we can advance the slide one more, because I do want to make sure we cover the promo, and I'd like this to stay up when we ask the final questions here, because we really appreciate what Proton AI has put on the table for you folks. So there's a free 30-minute CRM consultation session. So within that session, there'll be an analysis of what you're currently using and how this particular tool can actually optimize your environment. And we really appreciate that from Proton AI. Now, this is valid through the end of March. So you've got a little better than a month to go ahead and reach out to Proton AI or to NSA, either way, and to let us know that you'd like to schedule your one-on-one consultation visit. So we'll leave this up while we ask a few other questions here, but I think that that's a highly valuable, promotion that Proton AI is providing. So another question I have is how does Proton AI differ from traditional CRMs or BI tools? I love that one.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you got to see a bunch of the different use cases today, but it really comes down to three things. One is the way that we pull all of the data that a distributor or sales rep needs into one place. So traditional CRMs maybe integrate with the ERP, but not usually. Maybe they integrate with e-commerce, but not usually. Maybe they have the full product catalog, but not usually. But it's especially rare they have all three. And so being able to integrate and pull all the data that a rep needs into one place. The second is using AI to actually analyze the data to tell the sales reps where the best opportunities are. And the third thing is just the ease of use, making it super, super simple for sales reps to get into the system and understand how to use it is really what drives adoption. So I think it's really those three things that make Proton different from a traditional CRM.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Another question I have is what does pricing look like for Proton? Is it based on number of seats, usage, or a different model?
Yes, it's primarily based on the number of seats.
Okay, great. And like you'd mentioned before with one of your use cases, you can start with a certain number of seats and then obviously add to that, during your contract period, et cetera.
100%. And we advocate, I mean, with a lot of the larger businesses that we work with, we'll start with a division and then, show success there and then expand to other groups.
Okay, great. I got a couple more here. And again, I'm inviting folks that are on with us to feel free to chime in. So what ERP systems does Proton integrate with? And guys, I think this is important because there's a lot of acquisition consolidation in the distribution space, right? So you may be acquiring a company that uses another ERP. So I think that's very relevant.
Yep. Yeah. So we've built integrations to lots of different ERPs. We've never met an ERP that we couldn't integrate with. So most commonly would be all the Infor systems, all the Epicor systems, SAP, NetSuite, just to name a few. But we've integrated with very industry specific bespoke solutions as well. So the way that we integrate is really, really flexible. And as you're thinking about, if you're buying companies or have multiple ERPs, we've often had Proton sitting on top of multiple ERPs and being kind of that connective layer between them.
Well, that certainly makes the ROI a lot sooner for those acquisitions that some of these distributors are
Yeah.
making as well. So that's
Yep.
awesome. And then I guess the final question I've got here is what's the typical implementation timeline for Proton?
Yeah. So it takes 12 weeks to go from contract signed to getting those gurus trained in the system. That varies depending on the complexity of the implementation. Some are shorter, some are a little bit longer, depending on exactly what you're trying to do. But 12 weeks is a good estimate. And that's all the integration, the configuration, training the AI models. Yeah, the whole thing.
Okay, terrific. Well, once again, I'm just going to invite anybody else that's on the line to feel free to open up your audio and feel free to ask questions. But in the meantime, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we are going to go ahead and obviously send this recording out to everybody that's on the call today. I urge you to please take advantage of this 30-minute CRM consultation. Doesn't cost you a thing to do, and it'll be specific to your company. So please reach out to Proton AI or NSA so we can go ahead and get that scheduled for you. And I'll give it just one more minute. Any final thoughts, Benj, that you'd like to go ahead and convey?
I mean, we'd love to have a conversation with folks. The one other thing that we can do actually as part of this is we can actually analyze all of your data to tell you what the ROI would actually be of deploying something like Proton. So we've actually built an AI model that understands the ROI of deploying Proton. And so we can analyze your data as part of that too. So if that's of interest, definitely reach out to our team and we can get you guys set up.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Excellent. Well, I'd like to thank Proton AI and Benj specifically for the presentation today. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to attend this session. I urge you to please sign up for this consultation session. I think it makes a lot of sense to just go ahead and do that. Consider this as an option for you. The ROI is obviously very high. It's been proven in distribution. And without any other questions coming in, I'll give you back another 5 to 6 minutes of your day. So thank you, Benj and Proton AI and everybody attending today. And
Thanks,
that's a
Brian.
wrap.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Bye.